Look, when you get put on a PIP, the document you receive makes it sound pretty reasonable. A written plan, a timeline, weekly check-ins with your manager, support from HR. It reads like a chance. Most people accept it on those terms, put their head down and start grinding. What almost nobody tells them is what's actually going to happen over the next 30, 60 or 90 days. When I worked with companies like Google and Nike as an engineering manager, I was part of the HR briefings. I was in those closed door conversations and I've personally been involved in PIP processes from the manager's side. Honestly, it's one of the most brutal parts of being a manager. And I'm going to share what I've actually seen to genuinely help you. See, here's the thing. Almost nobody on the internet is going to tell you what I'm about to tell you today. The people who could mostly won't because it's uncomfortable and bad for their own career. And the career advice you find online comes from people who have never actually been in these rooms. I'll tell you today. For this video, I'm going to walk you through what a PIP actually is mechanically, what the bar really looks like, what living through it feels like, and what the data says about how it ends. No sugarcoating. Okay, so let me start with what a PIP actually is, because the document is designed to make this feel smaller than it is. So PIP stands for Performance Improvement Document. In companies, it's very common to call it PIP. The structure is roughly the same across most companies. You get a written document with specific deliverables, success criteria, and a hard timeline, usually 30, 60 or 90 days. You'll also get a cadence of check-ins, typically weekly or bi-weekly, where you sit down with your manager and HR is always involved in this process from the very start. This is not your manager flying solo. Now here's what's not visible in the document. Every one of those check-ins is formally documented. Notes are going into a system. Evidence is being collected against each criteria in your plan. Your manager is being actively coached by HR on how to run this process, often with HR sitting in or reviewing the notes after the fact. The criteria themselves are predefined and some of them are specific and measurable. Things like ship feature X by date Y or reduce P1 bugs in your area by Z percentage. But a lot of them are subjective. Things like demonstrate ownership or improve cross-team collaboration. And those subjective criteria are exactly where the direction of outcome can be set well before you ever saw the document. The reason I'm walking you through all of this is the PIP document is written to feel like a casual improvement conversation. It isn't one. It's a structured, documented evaluation process with a binary outcome at the end. Once you see the machinery clearly, everything else in this video makes a lot more sense. Now here's the part that catches almost everyone off guard because it's not written anywhere in the document. The bar on PIP isn't show improvement, it isn't to make progress, it isn't to demonstrate effort. The bar is deliver 100% of the plan, every single item on the stated timeline, 100%. Any miss, even a small one, even something a manager in normal circumstances wouldn't even care about, can be cited as a PIP failure. And PIP failure means termination from the company immediately, without any extra notice period. End of PIP is going to be your last working day at the company. Let me tell you a real story. There's someone I mentored, let's call her Jenny, I don't want to reveal her actual name. Jenny didn't come to me during her PIP, she came to me after it was already over when she was looking for her next job. We were working together on her job search and that's when she told me the whole story of what happened to her. So Jenny had delivered every single item on her PIP, top to bottom. Her manager had even acknowledged it in written during the check-in conversations. But there was one item where she missed the timeline by a few days. And that was the only thing that went wrong in the entire 90-day window. The work itself was done, the quality was solid, and her manager had already said as much in the notes. But that one timeline miss was enough, and at the end of the PIP, she was terminated. Honestly, I think about Jenny's situation a lot. If she had reached out to me while the PIP was still going on, we might have looked at it together and made a different call about whether to even stay in it. By the time she reached out, the outcome was already done and all we could do was figure out the next chapter. Now, obviously, she's working at a good position, but there's so many people who go through this almost every day. In a normal review cycle, missing one timeline on one item is a footnote. Your manager mentions it at the year end, you talk about what slowed it down, and you move on. In a PIP, that sameness becomes cited reason for termination. That's asymmetry. You have to be perfect across every item, end to end, on time. The other side only has to find one miss, and once they find it, it goes straight into the documentation that HR and legal use to sign off on termination. And the bar is only half of why this is so hard. The other half is conditions you have to clear it under. Think about what your day-to-day actually looks like now. Your manager, the same person who was helping you grow 2 months ago, now has a task for next 30 to 60 days. And the task is to evaluate whether you can be removed from the company. They're not coaching you anymore, they're documenting you. Every interaction is being recorded, every miss is being noted, and every win you deliver gets treated as a baseline expectation, not as evidence that you are recovering. You deliver something good, the response isn't great, this is real turnaround. It's okay, that's what was expected. The recovery you are trying to demonstrate has nowhere to land. Meanwhile, the pressure compounds. You are trying to deliver harder work than you have ever delivered, while sleeping less, while emotionally processing what's happened to your career, while the person you are delivering for is actively looking for misses. Not because they're a bad person necessarily, but because the process requires them to. This is not just hard work. This is hard work performed under someone who, from your perspective, is trying to find reasons to fail you. And that combination is a huge part of why the failure rate on PIPs is what it is. Look, all of this shows up in the numbers, and the numbers are worse than most people realize. From the cases I've seen over years, more than 80% of people who put on PIP resigns before it ends. 80%. They read the situation, they understand what's actually happening, and they leave on their own terms. That's the majority outcome. Of the smaller percentage who decide to go through with the PIP and try to clear it, around 90% end up failing. Exceptions do exist, but across the real cases I've personally seen, they are rare, genuinely rare. Now here's what failing actually means. As I said earlier, if you fail, you are terminated. And the termination letter cites performance as the reason. That language follows you. Future employers do background checks. Some surface this directly, where the previous employer confirms the termination reason. Others surfaces indirectly through reference conversations, where framing is just slightly off in a way that experienced recruiters catch instantly. For some careers, especially senior roles where the bar of trust is high, a performance termination is genuinely career destroying. For others, it's a serious setback that takes years of strong work elsewhere to recover from. Either way, the floor of damage is much higher than people assume. See, I'm laying all of this out not to scare you. It's because the decision you make next is one of the most important career decisions you'll ever face. And you can only make it well if you actually know what you're choosing between. See, one more thing. Don't make these decisions alone. Mentorship genuinely helps in situations like these. Talking to someone senior who has actually been in these decisions, who has watched how this plays out for people over the years, completely changes how you see your own situation. I built a platform exactly for this, BeTopTen.com, where the mentors have been part of these calls at top tech companies. If BeTopTen is not right fit, use any other platform, your network, LinkedIn, anyone you trust who has actual experience. The platform isn't the point, getting the mentor is. Please consider it. Look, before we wrap up, here's what I really want to leave you with. A PIP feels like something happening to you, and that feeling is what makes these 30 to 90 days so disempowering. The way out of it is not optimism or grinding harder. It's seeing the process for what it actually is. Once you see it clearly, you can make a real decision about what to do instead of just reacting. That's where our agency comes from. And also creating another detailed video to tell you what to exactly do if you're put on a PIP. I'll put link in the description. Hope this video helped you. See you in the next one. Thank you very much.